Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Cam Jennings, aka Cam Fats, coming at you on behalf of the Cam Fats Daily Vlog. Welcome to day 119. I believe we're on day 119 tonight. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing amazing out there tonight. And I have a kind of a weird story to tell you about, and I don't know quite where to begin. It's kind of a strange tale. But okay, so I was in the kitchen today making myself a sandwich or something. And my wife came in, and she'd asked me kind of randomly if I had heard of this show called Double Dare. And I said, no, I've never heard of it before. I never heard of that. I said, was that like an MTV show or something? And she's like, no, it was a show that was on like a long time ago when I was a kid. I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, they're gonna do a reboot of it. I was like, okay. That's interesting. And she's like, well, the weird thing about it was that uh the guy who was the host of that show, his name was Marc Summers. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, you ever heard of him? I was like, no, I've never heard of him. I don't know anything about Double Dare or Marc Summers. And she's like, well, this Double Dare show used to be like one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. This is my wife telling me this. And Marc Summers was the host of this show. It was kind of a Nickelodeon show, you know. I was like, okay. And she's like, well, they're doing this reboot, and I saw the trailer for the reboot today, and like they got a new host, they got a new host on this reboot, and so they're doing this trailer, and then, excuse me, lo and behold, there's Marc Summers. It just pops up out of the crowd right there. So he was there too. So they got the new host, but they had Marc Summers there as well. I was like, okay, that's interesting, I guess. And she's like, yeah, the reason it's interesting is because I remember Marc Summers dying. He literally died. Um, and I started thinking in my mind, like, what? Now this is weird. I think I've heard this kind of a story before. This is like some weird Mandela Effect stuff. But the interesting thing about it was, my wife said that she has a very clear memory of Marc Summers dying like years ago, and not just him dying, but she has a clear memory of him dying by committing suicide because he had OCD, and the OCD just got to him after years of battling this OCD syndrome. He died. So it was like a really specific story, and it was super interesting to me. It was fascinating. So here we have this game show host, Marc Summers. My wife remembers him dying a long time ago. Now, she didn't mention anything about the Mandela effect. She just thought it was weird. She thought maybe she misremembered it, whatever. But in my mind, I'm thinking that's bizarre, because you just who misremembers someone dying, and like killing themselves, like because they're battling OCD. That's like a really specific memory. You know what I mean? So, of course, I needed to look into it further because that was a really specific memory. So, anyways, let me show you what I did. Let me retrace my footsteps just a tiny bit here. I'm going to share my screen with you. So I typed in, so I get on the internet, and I type in Marc Summers, Mandela Effect, right? And I pull up this Reddit right here. It's under this glitch in the matrix subreddit. And what do you know? Sure enough, I heard him on the radio the other day talking about a new book or something he wrote about Nickelodeon. I am sure I heard about 6 or 8 years ago that he committed suicide. Now, this person's saying 6 to 8 years ago. This is 2018. 6 years ago would be 2012. 8 years ago would be 2010. So let's keep those years in mind. Okay. Between 2012 and 2010, this guy thought Marc Summers committed suicide. Okay. And when we got a few people who comment, This person says, that's what I thought too. Just looking at some of these comments. Yeah, but just to be clear, this was not in 2012 that I remember him committing suicide. It was before then. And said it was supposedly because he couldn't deal with his OCD. That's exactly what my wife said. The same exact thing. Because he couldn't deal with his OCD. I remember my grandmother telling me about it very vividly. Interesting. No, like I said, it was 6 years ago or so. So here's another person saying it was six years ago, which puts it around 2012. So anyways, so that's kind of what I was seeing here. OMG, I remember that too. Didn't he commit suicide because he couldn't deal with his OCD? Yes, that is what I remember too. I should have put that in the original post. So there's a few people here who just very vividly remember him dying somewhere between 2010 and 2012 because he couldn't deal with his OCD. He committed suicide. It's the exact same thing that my wife remembers. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I wanted to go over to Google Trends because sometimes that can be kind of revealing. And I just wanted to kind of get the feel for what everyone else was searching for when it came to Marc Summers, because, you know, if someone dies, generally people start searching for them. So when celebrities die, I should say. So I typed in, the first thing I typed in was Marc Summers death, right? And now this all ties into something else in a minute, guys. So bear with me, but I'm trying to weave the points of this story as best I can. But let me. So this is I want to take this back to 2004 because that'll put us squarely in that spot where we get the 2012, 2010 stuff. So we can see Marc Summers' death here. And this is, you don't see a lot of people searching for Marc Summers, and why would they? He was a game show host on, I guess it was a fairly popular show on Nickelodeon. I never really watched Nickelodeon when I was a kid because I didn't have cable, and I wasn't familiar with the show. But also in 2012, I wasn't a kid, so I was like well into my 20s. So or whatever that show was airing, I don't think I was a kid back then. I don't know. I don't know when that show aired. But this is interesting. So there's a big spike, 2005, Marc Summers' death, 2006, 2007, just little spikes, 2008. And to me, when I look at stuff like this isn't very significant. Here's something in 2011, a little bit of a spike in 2012 in August. Okay, a little bit of a spike in 2012 in August. But bigger spikes, Marc Summers' death, way back here in August 2005. Okay, that's fine. To me, none of this means a lot. Maybe there's something here, but pretty inconclusive. The next thing I typed in was Mark with it because it's a misspelling, right? Because some people didn't spell the name right. Marc Summers' death with a misspelling, right? And you can see I didn't get anything on that. So let me go ahead and get rid of that. And let me just type in, let me try a couple more. Marc Summers suicide. I spelled that wrong, man. I'm sorry. I did it again. Oh my goodness. This is what I get for doing videos at 1 a.m. Marc Summers suicide. And look, if you guys notice, I'm kind of using Marc Summers' death as kind of a reference point because it actually registered some popularity. So I'm using that as kind of a reference point to base popularity of other things I'm putting in. Google Trends is about popularity. This scale of 0 to 100 is based on popularity. They're not actual numbers. They're percentages weighed against each other. So, if something's wildly popular one year and then it's not nearly as popular another year, the point that that keyword or topic is at its most popular is going to get the 100. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then everything else is going to be based off of equal popularity, less popularity. But that's what it's based on. It's not, you can't weigh them equally. Things that are the most popular are going to get the 100. So that's the way I understand Google Trends to be. I've been using it for a while. Generally, I don't use it for this kind of stuff. Generally, I use Google Trends to test markets for new niches that I want to explore. Things like drones, e-bikes, crap like that I'm considering breaking into those niches to make money. That's generally what I'll use Google Trends for. But when I learned about the Mandela Effect, I started branching out and using it for that as well, just to kind of gauge popularity for terms, trying to find some clues and figure out what's going on with this thing. But anyways, so, and then of course, I'll try the alternate spelling, which probably won't yield me any results either. Okay, so we're striking out on that. What I want to do though is I want to just type in his name, and I want to kind of see if just his name spiked up in times that we were talking about, that 2010 to 2012 time period. That would be significant to me, just typing in his name. Okay, so when I type in his name by itself, and what do you know, here we see pretty flatline, not flatline, but just a kind of a base level of popularity for Marc Summers, the search term. And then right here, we see a giant spike. And when is this? Right there. That's interesting. August of 2012. A giant spike in August 2012. That's when those people, that's when they all thought that he died, between 6 to 8 years ago. And this is an unnaturally large spike, right? This is unnaturally large. Now, if we go back to this, now you can't see Marc Summers' death right now. Now, I want you to understand it's still here. It's still here, but it got a lot smaller. And the reason it got a lot smaller is because this is all based, now they're taking the two terms and they're putting them in the same graph for popularity. So once I put this term with this term, 100 equaled something different, okay? Because it's based off of popularity. Now, August of 2012 was the new benchmark for maximum popularity for the search term between Marc Summers and Marc Summers' death. Between those two search terms, August of 2012 became the height of popularity, and it happened to be Marc Summers, and it hit its maximum popularity in August 2012, and you can see very quickly it dropped right back off. Okay, it's interesting, because that is right around the same time that everybody seems to remember him committing suicide from not being able to handle his OCD. I don't know if that means something or not. I want to show you guys something else, but I want to stop sharing my screen for a second and talk to you. Okay, so before I say this next thing, let me just check comments with you guys and see if there's any. I see there's a couple people watching this live, and if you guys are asking me questions, I just want to make sure I get with you guys. So let me just So, all right, cool, guys. I got my window pulled up. So if you guys want to ask me any questions or any comments, I will get with you on here, and I'll be checking for comments. Mitchy boy, what's up, man? What's up? I still have my video games from when I was a kid. I thought Mario Kart 64 for Nintendo 64 was called Mario Kart 64. Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. What's up, Brian Taylor? What's up, man? Welcome to the new world. I don't know if I like it, Brian. I don't know if I like this new world. I find it a little disconcerting. I find it a little disconcerting. Anyways, okay, guys. So here's the thing I wanted to tell you. When my wife was telling me this story about Mark Summers, and I have to be honest with you guys. Um, I will answer that question, Brian. Give me a second. I will definitely answer that question. Um, I I have to be honest with you. Like when my wife was telling me the story about Mark Summers, I had never heard of Mark Summers. I didn't know anything about Double Dare. Okay, but as she was telling me the story about this guy who she thought died, and then he was alive again. Um, like I had heard those stories before, and you guys who have been following this Mandela Effect thing have heard those stories before about different people. And but I got to tell you, um, like as she was telling me this story, just all of a sudden, like something like I can't explain it. First of all, like I had like goosebumps, kind of like I just felt really like okay, here's how I felt. You ever like been in a place alone and a kind of a creepy place, and like you get kind of goosebumps, like you think, wow, there's a ghost running around here or something like that. Anything, some place where you might have been that just kind of creeped you out, and you kind of got these weird goosebumps. So like I kind of got these weird goosebumps, and the other thing that happened was like I swear, like I just felt like mentally like a piece just locked into place. And that's the best way I can describe it. It just felt like a piece kind of just locked into place. And I thought and I'm not like a big Bible guy, guys. I can't like quote Bible. I can't quote Bible verses. I can't do it. I'm not a big Bible guy. I'm not some kind of crazy religious person. I believe in God. I want to go to heaven as much as the next cat out there who doesn't want to end up in hell. But I'm not some kind of crazy religious guy. But anyways, I got this like just this idea in my mind of Revelations, and I thought I remembered something from Revelations. I thought it was Revelations talking about it. I remember something from Revelations or something somewhere in the Bible talking about at the end of days, the dead will rise again, and be like among the living or whatever. And I remember always thinking that passage referred to like, I don't know, man. I always thought it was going to be some wild stuff like zombie apocalypse. You know what I mean? Like zombies rising up out of the grave and stuff. But that conversation, I just felt like that passage just locked into place for me. Like, is this whole thing where like we're seeing people alive again that like we all thought were dead? Like, is that Revelations passage? Is that from the Bible? Is that what the Bible meant when it said that like the dead will rise again? So I don't know if that's true or not, but man, it just felt like that locked into place for me. And I just had this sensation like my gut was telling me, yeah, yeah, you got that or something. I don't know, but you know how it is, man. Sometimes you think something's right and then that was it what it was at all, but I mean, anyways, that's kind of what happened. What's up, Frank Rodriguez? I'm going to show you guys the passage that actually was from the Bible, and I was wrong. It wasn't Revelations. It was actually ended up being from another part of the Bible. But I'll show you what I was thinking of in my mind in a second here. But I want to answer a couple of these questions. Brian says the only thing I know or heard of Mark Summers recently was in that episode of the TV show Workaholics. I don't remember him dying though, but I don't doubt you at all. Yeah, man, I'd never heard of Mark Summers before 8 hours ago. So, it's a pretty interesting topic for me because I'm not biased at all. I can approach the subject with no bias. But it's funny because my wife was a big fan of the show and she seemed to know, well, she had a very clear memory of it happening, but then she didn't really think it was a Mandela effect. She just thought that, she must have misremembered it, but it kind of was red flags for me because she had such a specific memory of what happened. So I thought that was interesting. Frank says, "Whoa, that's deep." Yeah, it is. It's kind of weird, man. Um, for sure, man. Brian Taylor says, "For sure, man. You'll find a lot of people, Christian folks, in the Mandela Effect community, and there's changes in the Bible people are claiming all the time." I know, man. I've heard a few of those changes too in the Bible, and it kind of freaks you out a little bit because then you start thinking, like, "Wow, man." This is me personally, right? Like, I start thinking, "Wow, man, I probably never read the Bible as much as I should have." I've skimmed it a couple times. I've skimmed it, you know, but I never really sat down for a real solid power read on the Bible. It is what it is, man. I probably should have, but I didn't. And now I'm seeing all these people talking about changes in the Bible, and I start thinking, man, I guess I can't even trust the Bible anymore. I guess my time has passed to sit down with the power read on the Bible. I don't know. I don't know, man. That's where I go with it in my mind. But anyways, let me show you guys. Let me go to screen share, and I'll show you what else I found with that whole thing. Um, so yeah, so I did that stuff, and I was looking at the Reddit, and I was looking at the Google Trends, and then I was trying to figure out what the reference was to the end of days. Dead shall rise again. Bible. And I started pulling this back, and it was Isaiah 26:19, right? And maybe there's more areas in the Bible that talk about it, but this is the one that seemed like what I was remembering, the New International Version. "But your dead will live, Lord, their bodies will rise. Let those who dwell in the dust wake up and shout for joy. Your dew is like the dew of the morning. The earth will give birth to her dead." And like, I'd read that in the past, but I always thought that was going to be some more like in your face stuff. Like, we're going to see dead. I didn't know what it meant, man. I had no idea. That's all this Bible stuff, man. You don't know what any of it means, man. It's all like a giant code. I think that's why we got like 1,000 different religions, man, because it's all open to interpretation. Nobody gets what any of it means, man. Everybody's just interpreting it. I mean, you look at Christianity alone, and you have like, 1,000 different versions of Christianity. Everybody interprets the daggone Bible different. And then on top of that, you got like 1,000 different Bibles. I mean, look, man, my goodness. Hold on a second. Let me share my screen again. Let me show you guys. This is crazy. This is, if you want to know why you have so much, why nobody wants to talk about religion, look no further than the Bible. Look at this. Look at all these different versions of this thing. New NIV, NLT, ESV, NASB, the King James, Christian Standard. I mean, you got all these different versions of the Bible, and they're all slightly different. They use slightly different wording. I mean, isn't it doubt in my mind why, there's 1,000 different religions out there just in Christianity alone? None of them get along. When I go to a big church, when I go to a big church, they're criticizing the small churches. When I go to a small church, they're criticizing the big churches. Everyone's criticizing gay people. The Baptists don't like the Catholics. The Catholics hate the Baptists. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it makes you not want to even go to church. It's crazy. But anyways, I kind of got off track there. But I guess the point is, kind of had a eureka moment when it comes to the Bible. I guess you could say, kind of had a eureka moment when it comes to the Bible, and I started thinking, these people that are like, that other people thought were dead, and now they seem to be alive again. I mean, is that some kind of reference to the Bible? I mean, because I've seen a few things now that have happened that make me think of biblical type stuff, with this Mandela effect. And I know there's several different theories on Mandela effect about what it is, what's happening. I'm not going to bore you guys with that stuff because I have no clue. I mean, take your pick, man. End of days theory. It's the end of days. Satan's causing all this stuff. it's the end of days. God's causing all this stuff. It's the great delusion. It's the great delusion that they speak of in the end of days. It's quantum. It's quantum physics. It's the CERN thing. They're creating black holes at CERN and causing all this stuff to happen. It's who knows. It's time travelers from another dimension. Who knows, man? Who knows? I don't know. There's a lot of theories out there. I don't think any of them really know. They're just kind of throwing it out there, just throwing stuff out there. And now, if it puts you guys at ease at all, I would say this also. I've seen some Mandela effects out there, guys, that I don't really think are true. They're pretty easily explained. Like I saw this one the other day. A guy was saying the Beatles have been named different things. The Beatles, like the rock band, the Beatles have been named different things. And one of the things that he said they were named was the Golden Beatles. And like that, now I know that the Golden Beatles was an album put out by the Beatles. So some of these Mandela effects, I'm not sure, man. I'm not doubting them. But I think, some of the channels that are just devoted to Mandela effect stuff, they're just putting out Mandela effect after Mandela effect stuff. First of all, I appreciate what they're doing. But, I think, when you're putting out content in just one category, sometimes there's a little bit of a pressure to perform. You know what I mean? And I don't know if everybody's proofing these videos as much as maybe they should with the Mandela effect stuff. Maybe they're not proofing them quite good enough because I have seen some that I don't think are true, because they're pretty easily explained away, like that Golden Beatles thing. But I'm not doubting anybody. I mean, I don't really, I'm not an expert on anything, because you could easily say, well, yeah, man, in your reality, it was the Golden Beatles was just an album, but in my reality, they were actually called the Golden Beatles. I mean, who knows? I don't know. Who am I to doubt that? I don't really know. Maybe that's true. But the way I remember that particular one was it was just, that was the name of the record. It was called the Golden Beatles. It's like one of those best of type records. You know what I mean? It was like a best of type. There's a lot of Beatles records out there that are just kind of like, generic best of type things, because it's such a big band. Brian Taylor says, I think God puts truth and the love of truth in your heart, not in the Bible. And the Bible is there for you to draw understanding from. You don't need to throw it out because of the effect. That's a good point, man. That's a really good point. That's a good point. Puts truth in your heart, man. Actually, Silver Beatles. Yep, I heard that too, man. I heard the Silver Beatles one too. I didn't really look into that Silver Beatles thing though. So could be true, man. Could be true. I don't know. So it's interesting. I wanted to share that with you guys tonight, though. The whole thing with Marc Summers being alive again, and how that Google Trends spiked up in 2012, which I thought was really weird and really interesting. Right at the same time that my wife thought that he had died, and right at the same time all those people on Reddit thought he had died. There was a giant spike there, and now he's alive and well. And just the fact that I don't know, man, just the fact that I kind of felt that lock in my head. Then I started looking into Bible stuff, and I found that passage about how the dead will rise again. And for some reason, it just felt like that was the right thing to explain this stuff where, people we thought were dead are now alive again. It just felt like that was the right thing to explain it. I don't know how else to explain that. It was just kind of a weird feeling. But I never thought about that passage like that before. I always thought about that passage as more of like, zombie movie type stuff. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's going to be the end of days. It's going to be terrible. Dead people are going to rise up and stuff. But I don't know. Maybe it's more like this, maybe it's more like people we thought were dead are now alive again. I don't know. I really don't know, man. I'm not a Bible expert, and I'm surely not an apocalypse expert either. However, I can say I don't know all day, and it's not going to bring any of you any comfort whatsoever. What I will say is, what I do know is things are getting weird. That's for sure. Not much any of us can really do about it, though, right? Just kind of keep on looking, keep on observing. And I think, Brian said it best when he said, God puts the truth of love, truth in your heart. I guess we just need to hold love in our heart, don't we? We just need to try to treat each other well, treat each other kind, acknowledge the fact that God is the one true God. I'm not the best religious person in the world, but I think maybe all of us should at least consider the possibility, that there's a lot of weird stuff happening lately, and I can't really explain some of it. So, anyways, maybe it's just another thing, man. Maybe it's just a whole bunch of people just remembering things wrong, and it's kind of like a snowball. It started with a few things, and people remembering something wrong, and then other people who didn't really think about it that much, but then someone brings it up, and then now they're like, oh yeah, you're right, man, that was different. Like Interview with a Vampire. I thought it was Interview with a Vampire. Now it's Interview with the Vampire. Maybe someone thought it was Interview with a Vampire, and then maybe someone else didn't really think about it that much, but then when that person said it, they were like, yeah, man, maybe you're right. Maybe it was Interview with a Vampire. Holy crap. Then you get a group of people saying that, and all of a sudden it's a conspiracy theory. Now all of a sudden it's a movement. Maybe that's what's going on, man. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's just a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of us getting worked up over nothing. And I'll tell you something, I hope it is just that, honestly. I hope that's what it is. I've never been the kind of person that wants to contribute to like fear mongering. I don't want to like scare people. I like putting out videos that teach people things and help people and move people forward in a positive direction. I'm not really into scaring people. I know I'm not the only one with kids. I know some of you guys got kids. I'm not trying to scare anybody or anything like that. And I surely am not trying to make you guys think I'm some kind of freaking lunatic, some kind of crazy fool. But that being said, I do feel like the urge to put these videos out when I see this stuff. And yeah, it does kind of, it's, I don't want to say it's risky, but it's not necessarily the kind of video I would like to make, guys. I guess that's the best way I can put it. The Mandela Effect videos that I give to you guys, they're not really videos I want to make. I don't revel or enjoy looking like a crazy person. I'm not really one to enjoy even talking about the Bible per se, because I know everyone has their own belief systems and, on the Bible, and maybe a different religion. Maybe you're into the Muslim religion. Maybe you like the Quran. I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what religion you're into. It doesn't matter to me. So I would say that these kind of videos aren't really the ones I like making on this channel, but I do feel driven to make them. So I just make them, because I feel like I need to put the information out there. I'm not just going to talk about this stuff though, you guys. I don't want you to think this is just some kind of Mandela Effect channel. It's not. This is a talk about whatever the crap I want to talk about channel. But when I see weird stuff like this on the Mandela Effect, I'll talk about them. So, and that's it. Brian says people are hasty and not thorough because they want to discover their own effects, but there's tons of strange things going on related to Mandela effects. Hey, all I know is I trust Jesus. There you go, man. There you go. And yeah, I agree with you, Brian. I think that people are being hasty. Yeah, maybe they want to discover their own effects, but why? What's the point of discovering your own effects? To me, like when it gets to that point, then at that point, then you've kind of industrialized it, haven't you? Now you've kind of industrialized it. Like, this is kind of like my job now. This is part of what I do to make money, or this is part of what I do. You know, you kind of industrialized it as part of what you do to make money. Now it's a job, so you're forced to put content out there. And then I don't know if it's as much about, you know, the Mandela effect as much as it's about just like a niche that you're like trying to take over. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because now it starts to feel like more like marketing. It starts to feel more like just something you're trying to come in and dominate a little bit. Because why else would you feel like why else would you feel like this urge to like discover effects and put these videos out? You know, I mean, maybe just validation, maybe because you're starting to develop a little bit of a following, and you want to just keep that going and spurring that on. But again, I mean, it seems like it's starting to come back to marketing. It's starting to come back to just, you know, building an audience, creating a new job for yourself. Not really necessarily about the Mandela effect. Almost like the Mandela effect, that whole phenomena is becoming like kind of a side effect of the real goal now, and the real goal becomes just building your audience. That's kind of what it feels like to me. But I think when you're dealing with something like that, then your viewers are getting, you know, they're the ones getting screwed on that situation, because you're dealing with a group of people who are kind of dealing with something they don't want to deal with. I don't think I've seen a few people who think the Mandela effect is a positive thing, but I've seen a lot more people who don't really appreciate the Mandela effect at all. I'm one of them. I don't really appreciate it at all, man. I see a lot of changes. I don't really appreciate many of them. I'm kind of someone who doesn't even like change very much. So when I start seeing these things change, I don't really like it that much. You know, but I've read a lot of stories about people who it really has affected them strongly. Like I read a story tonight about a guy who was very, very well traveled, middle class guy, very well traveled, very well educated, just considered himself a normal guy. He was looking at the globe. He was looking at a globe one time, and he just kind of came to this realization he didn't recognize Australia. And he had been to Australia. I mean, he actually had won awards for his geography, you know. So he actually was very, very well educated. You know, just it's a normal guy. You know what I mean? And he realized he didn't recognize Australia anymore when he looked at this globe, and it just like completely freaked him out. Like it sent him on this really crazy negative trip. And it ended him up like in the Reddit forums for the Mandela effect and glitch in the matrix and stuff. So, and that's just one example of someone who's like affected like in a really negative way. And it's funny because I saw this video. Some of you guys might have seen it. I saw this video the other day about a pastor, and he was talking about the Mandela effect. Is it Pastor Sanderson, I think? But he was basically saying this whole Mandela effect thing is a bunch of nonsense. A bunch of people who don't want to admit they're wrong, like they're misremembering something, they're wrong, and instead of just coming to the logical conclusion that you made a mistake, they want to pretend like it's an alternate dimension, and there's like time travelers. And he basically just made people sound like fools, is what he did. He made everybody sound like a bunch of fools, man. And I just thought, I mean, this dude had like 78,000 subscribers. And I thought, man, this cat, he's kind of misusing his influence a little bit. He's taking a whole entire group of people. And I think Brian said this before, or someone here said this already, that there's a lot of Christians in this Mandela effect community. But this guy was taking his influence. He's kind of misusing it because he just alienated like a whole giant group of Christians that are kind of affected by this weird phenomenon. And I just thought, wow, that was really careless for a pastor. You know what I mean? That's really freaking careless, man. Just like alienated this whole entire group of people and basically called them fools, like arrogant fools, because they just don't want to admit they're wrong. But I tell you something, man, I've done a lot of poking around, and like I have read stories and testimonies and watched videos by a lot of people affected by this whole Mandela effect thing. and they don't seem arrogant at all, and they don't seem like they're just like stubborn fools who just don't want to admit they're wrong. As a matter of fact, a lot of them seem kind of, I don't want to say tortured. Maybe tortured is the wrong word. Maybe that's a little strong, but they definitely seem like they don't appreciate all these changes. That's kind of annoying, kind of gets annoying. And I agree with them, man. I think some of these changes are just freaking annoying. Like uh what's one that really bugs me a lot? It's that freaking that freaking Moses statue with those horns on it. Like every time I see that statue with those horns on it, it looks really weird to me. It just looks so wrong. And then the other one, the thinker, Godin's thinker statue, how his hands been moved down like this to his chin. It's just weird. Like you'll see people standing by that statue and they'll be like imitating the statue. They'll be imitating the statue and their hand will be on their head. And like the statue's right there behind them. And they got their hands on their head like this. And the statue's got his hand like this under his chin. And it's like, how would they get that wrong? They're standing right beside the statue. How would they get that wrong? At least I find countless pictures of that kind of stuff happening. It's like that makes no sense to me. Like that defies all logic. So I don't know. The things like that bug me, and I think they bug other people who have noticed this whole Mandela effect too. It's kind of annoying, man. And I think also that it's kind of hard to deal with because in the real life, people don't want to look crazy. And we can talk about it on the internet and stuff, but like when you go out there in public and stuff, man, you got to be careful who you talk about it with because you don't want to look like some crazy fool, because everybody wants to judge you. They're all going to think you're some crazy fool. So you just keep it to yourself, just keep it under wraps or whatever. But constantly you're kind of like looking around like, what else has changed around here? You know what I mean? Like the other day, I heard this freaking, man, I'm gonna tell you something. When I was a teenager, I had this album by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It was called What Hits. Right? Red Hot Chili Peppers, What Hits. The very first song on that CD was a cover. It was a cover song of an older song called Higher Ground. Right? It's called Higher Ground. And I heard that song today, man. I heard yesterday. I heard that song, and it's Highest Ground. They all say Highest Ground now. The cover the Red Hot Chili Peppers did. Now they always say, keep on the highest ground. They're saying highest ground. They don't say higher ground anymore, right? The original one says highest ground. It doesn't say higher ground anymore. And I think that's amazing. See, I wore that CD out, and I know it said higher ground. It's like one of my favorite songs on that whole CD. So I don't know, man. Stuff like that bugs me, and it's annoying. It's not even interesting. So it's just freaking annoying. But anyways, Brian says, I hear you, man. I think people like the validation and also they want to feel a part of something important. Yeah, I agree with that, man. But I don't think that explains everything. There's too much going on. Agreed. I agreed, man. There's a whole lot to try to explain away. It's hard to explain away everything. The thing that convinced me was JFK assassination because I've loved investigating conspiracies and theories since always, and I studied it. But there used to be 4 in the car, now it's 6. I don't even understand the 6. Like the 6 doesn't even make sense to me. I mean, that car looks so weird with like the 6 people in the car, like the 3 different rows in that car. I mean, it looks so weird. I mean, it just doesn't even look right. Honestly, I think the changes are there to get you to start questioning this place we call reality. I think for some, they get trapped there, but it's supposed to get you to reflect more deeply. Well, I think it's working, man. If that's what's happening, I think that's probably working. Yeah. Brian says he thinks it's higher ground too. Agreed. I couldn't believe that. I saw that on a Moneybags video. You guys watch Moneybags? Moneybag 73. If you guys don't watch Moneybag 73, if you're into this Mandela Effect stuff, I mean, you guys probably already know about that channel, but if you don't know about it, check it out, man, because he's always doing these Mandela Effect videos. And I think that's kind of the primary focus on his channel right now. And I think that Moneyback 73 is kind of an interesting case because he's a guy who started out talking about currency and money and stuff like that. He wasn't talking about any like conspiracy theory type stuff. And then this Mandela Effect thing just hit him, you know, and like now he's like driven to do these Mandela Effect videos, and he's like documenting these Mandela effects and doing these voting videos on them. I think it's pretty interesting, man. It's pretty interesting. But I don't think I could do something like that, man, because just like doing several Mandela Effect videos a week, that kind of takes its toll on you after a while, man, because they're kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying to watching things like kind of change, and yet only a small amount of people notice it, and everyone else doesn't notice it, and everyone's always telling you you're wrong, and people are always telling you, oh, it's always been that way and stuff like that. Man, that get annoying, dude. It's almost like, I'll just like forget about it and just live my life. I'm gonna try not to think about it. I'm just gonna try not to think about it, man. I'm just gonna pretend like that didn't happen. Anyways, man. Hey, that's all I got, you guys. Hope everybody's doing amazing out there. I'll be back tomorrow with another one. You know how we do it right here on the Camp Fats Daily. I'll be back with 120 tomorrow. Big Brian, thanks for hanging out with me, man. I appreciate the conversation. Everybody else who's been on here, Frank Rodriguez, Mitch Boy, thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight, guys. Appreciate you all. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, this talk. If you guys like these live streams, let me know. I'll try to do more of these live talks. And yeah, that's it, man. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace, everybody.